because it's just a hunch, and we can't take men off the command post where it becomes an easy target. The two men quietly jogged up the moonlit road toward the back of the subdivision. Mark was lost in the fear that he might be right. He wondered what John would do to his family. When the two brothers were half a block from Mark's street, Mike grabbed him by the arm and pulled him down into some small bushes on the side of the road. Mark looked at his brother and saw that he had his finger to his lips. He then took that finger and pointed at three shapes walking across the intersection. Mark instantly recognized the shape in the lead. It was David. The muzzle of a rifle held by one of the larger shapes was pushing him along. Mark wasn't sure, but he thought it was John's right-hand man, Snuffer. The sight both terrified Mark and calmed him. The unknown is sometimes worse than the known, he thought. Mark now knew what the score was and what he had to do. Mark pulled his rifle up to eliminate the threat to his son. The moon was bright enough that he could make out the shapes, but not bright enough to see his sights well enough to ensure clean hits on the MZBs. If Mark wounded one or both of them, they might shoot David. There was even the possibility that he could hit David. He pulled the rifle down. They'd have to follow them until they could get a good shot at Snuffer, or whoever it was, and the other guy. Mark could do that by himself. He would send Mike to check the house. Was that right? John could be at his house right now, but David was definitely in danger. Maybe he should send Mike after David. He wasn't sure. One thing he was sure of, though, was that he had to do something. As the two figures disappeared behind the house on the corner, Mark whispered to Mike, "Follow David and the MZBs. They're probably forcing him to take them to the hand grenades at Gunny's. Take them out if you get a chance at clean shots, or if it looks like they're going to hurt Dave. I'm going to our house to see what's going on there." Mike gave Mark a quick nod and then took off after David. Mark moved as fast as he could toward his house. From the front, it appeared dark inside. Jess usually had some candles burning that could be seen through the front windows. Mark listened and he could hear nothing. He went around to the back. Again it was dark. There was always an oil lamp burning in the kitchen if anyone was home. Maybe they'd gone somewhere when the fighting broke out, but where? They could have gone to Gunny and Abby's house, but then why did David come from this way? Mark decided he had to find out. He pulled back the screen door as quietly as he could and stepped into the kitchen. It was pitch black inside the house. He strained his eyes, willing them to see through the darkness. He wished he had a flashlight. As he stood there, he thought he heard some whimpering coming from the living room. He set his rifle on the kitchen table and pulled his pistol from its holster. It would be easier to navigate the hallways without the long arm. He carefully and quietly inched his way toward the front of the house. He hoped the moon would shine in through the living room windows enough that he could make out what was going on. It seemed the hall was miles long as he crept forward. As he reached the doorway, his prayers were answered. There was some light in the room. He could see several people sitting on one side of the room in a huddle, while a man on the other side was holding a pistol on them. There was no light behind Mark, so the man, it had to be John, couldn't see him. He silently prayed John hadn't heard him. The MZB leader had probably figured he would use a light or make some noise coming in. Well, Mark would make him pay for that mistake. He slowly raised the pistol to eye level. Mark used his left thumb and forefinger to ever so slowly disengage the safety without the normal metallic click. He didn't know if he barely heard it or if he more felt it, but John didn't turn his head. Oh.